Hello, and welcome back to the Art of Reduction here at Trailway Studios in Bloomington, Indiana. My name's Reeve Andrews, and I'm going to be your barber today. On today's episode, we're going to talk about first-time clients. I, unfortunately, don't really get too many of these new clients because I'm so busy, but when I do, I still try to act the way I did when I first started cutting hair. And that is really trying to look at the energy of the person walking in and really trying to make my energy kind of really relate to theirs so that they could instantly feel comfortable in my presence and, more importantly, in my chair. So also in today's episode, we're going to focus on just cutting silver hair today, which is, I think, one of the best and coolest hair textures and looks to cut, especially on older gentlemen who look like silver foxes. So today, my model's name is Greg. Greg, how are you? Welcome to the studio. Thank you so much. We're going to take a seat right here. And Greg, I'm just going to have a little consultation with you real quick and kind of talk to you about I'm going to talk to you about how I do my consultation with these guys. So when's the last time you had a haircut, Greg?
It's probably been 2 months.
2 months. So on average, hair grows about a ½ inch. He said he hasn't been here for 2 months. So to me, that means he has about an inch of regrowth all over his head. So that gives me a little baseline on maybe you shouldn't go any shorter than an inch just to keep my client comfortable. I assume that you have a lot of texture in your hair, so I assume you like to keep a lot of the texture in the haircut, yes? Yep. And if I'm looking at you, it looks like majority of the cut looks like you're doing a lot of scissor work, just a little bit of clipper work. I assume you don't want to look like you just came out of the military. Keep some length on it, correct? Okay. So a lot of the times I instantly try to take control and kind of telling him what I'm seeing and really in hopes that he's liking what I'm about to hear. But if there's anything that he wants to tell me, I really try my hardest to say, is there anything else that you would like to tell me about your hair? Is there anything maybe you don't like about your hair or that you do like about your hair? And that will really help me kind of get a blueprint of what we're about to do. And when I say the word blueprint, that reminds me I like to give my client a blueprint before we even start the haircut. So Greg, just kind of listening to you haven't had a haircut in 2 months. You like a lot of texture, you have nice thick hair, you don't want to look like you're in the military today. So with that being said, Greg, just kind of hearing you out and listening and looking at what your hair can do, I'm going to give you a little blueprint of what I think would look good on you, okay, Greg? We're going to kind of, hear me out here, we're going to do about 2 haircuts in one. We're going to do a nice longer clipper cut from about here down, Greg. And I assume at the very bottom, we won't go any lower than a 1.5. That 1.5 is pretty clean, Greg, but it's not gonna see much skin. And from there, kind of feel me, we're gonna do about a 1.5, and we're gonna take it up to a 2 guard, take it up to a 3 guard, 3.5 guard, 4 guard, 4.5 guard. And then from there, Greg, we're gonna do scissor cut or razor work the rest of the haircut to give you a lot of texture. Kind of nice, clean earline, neckline. If it's okay, I'm going to clean your eyebrows a little bit, get your ear, get the neck hairs off of you, and then we'll kind of go from there. How does that sound?
Sound like to be a brand new man.
Yes, and that's the goal. And more importantly, I know I don't have a mirror to kind of show you this, but during your consultation, I encourage you not to talk through the mirror. What that does, it gives a little, I don't know how to describe it, but it loses a sense of connection when I'm talking through the mirror to my client. So when I'm doing my consultation, I'm looking at my gentleman in the eye, listening to what he has to say, having that connection, so he knows that I'm being pretty serious about this consultation, because really the consultation will lead to a really nice haircut. So I'm gonna go ahead and drape him up real quick. Number one, I just really enjoy using neck strips. It's just a nice, clean way to help no irritation if there's maybe a little hair, in your cape, and it's just a nice kind of clean way about going about it. Does that feel okay, sir? Yes. Awesome. Okay, so with Greg, I'm going to start with getting his hair nice and wet. He has a little bit of product in it, so I do encourage, if you have a shampoo bowl at your shop, for any time you have a new client, it's really important to break that touch barrier with a nice handshake, number one. Have a nice consultation in your chair looking at your client. And more importantly, it's nice to give a nice shampoo. And when my professor back in the day told me, and I will always remember this, is that you win your client over at your shampoo bowl. Meaning if I give him a nice shampoo, it has nice, firm grip, I'm not drenching his face, I'm not getting his ears wet. What it does, it breaks that touch barrier. So instead of just, hi, I'm Reeve, I'll be cutting your hair. Hi, I'm Reeve, I'll be cutting your hair. Let's have a nice consultation, feel your energy. Let's take him back to the shampoo bowl, get him relaxed. And more importantly, during that shampoo, I'm feeling for any irregulars in his scalp. Does he have any skin tags or moles that I need to be careful of? Is there any divots or dents in his hair that might change the way the fade looks? The shampoo really opens up a lot of insight on how this haircut's gonna go. So I encourage a nice handshake, a nice consultation, a nice shampoo, and then we bring him back to the chair. So unfortunately at the studio, we don't have a shampoo bowl. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just really gonna try to get this majority wet. So what I'm gonna do today is he likes a lot of texture, and I'm gonna kind of do something different today. I'm actually gonna start on top of his head, reduce a lot of this bulk, create a lot of texture, and then I'm gonna jump into my clipper work and really kind of bust out this fade. I know a lot of people kind of start with the clipper work and work their way up, but hey, we like to do stuff different around here, and that's what I wanna do today. So I'm just being careful, trying to get them completely saturated, even, especially if you're doing a lot of scissor work, guys. I really encourage you to have really nice, damp, even saturated hair. So let's just kind of keep doing this. I don't want it like dripping down his face or anything like that. I did ask him prior to this if he wears a part. He does not wear a part. So that's one thing we're gonna make sure we don't do. So what I am gonna do though is I am gonna part him out. Yes, he does not wear a part, I get that. But I am going to kind of take some of this hair out, and especially on the sides right here, that's the hair we're gonna use clippers on. So I really don't need and don't wanna touch too much of that hair. So I'm just gonna do a nice, quick little part on him. He wears his hair to the right. I am gonna mark off his bangs. That's one thing I like to do on all my haircuts. And he wears his hair towards the left, okay? So let's go ahead, mark off this hair, these bangs. We're gonna mark off his bangs first, because again, when I think of some of the most important aspects of the haircut, it's the bang, because it's the first thing your client sees, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and mark these off real quick. And what that does, it just gives me a little guideline on where not to go at first. So I know to not go any shorter into these bangs until I'm really ready to focus all my attention on this cut. So with that being said, I'm gonna jump on my scissors. Very thankful for my Hattori Hanzos. These are nice little swivel shears. Unlike just the fixed arm, I could really do a lot of unique angles without even moving my wrist too much. So I do believe that the swivel scissors are nice just so I could do a lot of cool angles, and I'm not really tweaking my wrist too much to get there. So with that being said, I'm gonna start very close to the bang. He likes a lot of texture, so I'm gonna do a lot of point cutting, and he wears his hair towards the left. So with that being said, he said it's been about 2 months since his last haircut, which on average, guys, on average, the hair grows about a ½ inch a month. Well, let's say his hair doesn't grow on average. So like, I would recommend not taking that initial inch off and probably kind of sit around maybe 3/4 of an inch at first. So then my client could kind of give me the go ahead if, later on down the cut, but hey, I really like this length, or you know what, Reeve, will you go a little shorter? And really going shorter is a lot easier than putting any hair back on. So really what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna focus on my point cutting, creating a lot of texture. I'm gonna be directing it more towards the left. And I'm really just gonna be hitting these dead ends, and more importantly, trying to keep a lot of texture for my client. I think it's very important to listen to your client during that initial consultation, just so when he opens his eyes and you show him his haircut, we're not really missing anything. It's everything that he kind of wanted. He realized that you listened to him, and if you listen to your client and you give him the look you want, the odds are that he's gonna come back to you. And what's even crazier, as long as you try your hardest, that first haircut, as long as your client realizes that, hey, Reeve really tried his hardest and listened to me, really took his time, I could feel him paying attention to the haircut and what he was doing, I like to tell a lot of my barbers at Bent, they just don't see you cutting their hair. They feel you cutting their hair. They feel the attention to detail, and they hear it and they feel it. And the more you can make them realize, like, hey, I'm listening to you. I'm focused on you. I'm not having conversations with the barber next to me or the client next to me. I'm not on my phone. I'm not listening to my AirPods. Really, Greg, I'm here and I'm serving you. In my book, he's my boss because he's paying me for 30 minutes of my time. He's giving me my paycheck that 30 minutes. So to me, that's a boss. So I even though I run and own my own shop, I have 18 bosses coming in to talk to me every day that I work for. And when you have that kind of mindset, it's really going to make your life a lot easier, and really your clients are really going to appreciate your energy behind the chair. So I'm cross-checking. If you notice, I brought it straight up. I took about a 1/2 inch off, and now what I'm doing is I'm taking sections straight up and down now instead of horizontally, taking them up vertically now. And just kind of cross-checking, just making sure everything looks nice and even. Not trying to go too short on his crown. Even though I think majority of my haircuts, I always have a little shorter crown. And as we adventure forward, gain and keep length. So again, I'm just doing a lot of point cutting for my client. And I'm really starting to like what I'm seeing. So I'm going to come in, just take a little bit more. And really why I like to kind of, especially with new clients, why I like to take off some of the bulk and energy on the top of his head, because it's going to be a lot easier when I start taking off energy and length through the back and the sides to usher in to that length. If we have a lot of hair on top, you might get kind of lost in the sauce when you're trying to come from the bottom and work your way into all that, nice, long, thick, textury hair. So that's why I kind of like to cut off some of the texture length first and then kind of go into the lower part of my cut. So I am going to keep those bangs pinned back for the majority of this cut. I am not going to cut them right now. I really am just kind of focusing on this back part of his head. So from there, I am going to move to my 13-tooth Hattori Hanzos. I'm going to at least skip my 21-tooth Hattori Hanzos at first. These are more for blending, kind of softening the look. Well, remember our consultation with Greg, he wants it really textury. So why not use the most textury scissor I have to really captivate and give him what he wants. So again, I am going in the direction I want this haircut to flow, which is towards the left. And I'm really kind of digging in there and really creating a lot of texture for my client. So let me kind of bring you around so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Again, I'm just following this hair up and really knocking off a lot of that length. Okay, so from there, if you remember correctly, he likes a lot of this length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting this back a little bit. And again, like the last haircut I used with my texturizing shears, I'm going to do a lot of this perimeter work around this band around the occipital bone with my texturizers first. Again, he wants it textury. He wants some mess to it. We have to give them that. If we give him a really clean haircut, when he said he wanted a more textury haircut, the odds are he's not going to come back to you because that was such a simple thing he asked of. He asked for a really textury haircut. Let's give him a textury haircut. So again, remember how I talked? I always kind of cut the hair in half. So whatever is on this side, I'm going to cut this way. Whatever is on this side, I'm cutting this way. So I'm going to pick this up. Nice. And I'm really just kind of getting this bulk out of this. Nice. Looking for any corners. See how his hair is a little softer, even the color is just a little different. So let's just even that up. And I'm going to run this all the way forward for you guys. Again, point cutting, texture, texture, texture. Getting those corners. Keeping it a little longer through the occipital bone. He kind of likes that messy kind of look. Little like, imagine him just getting off a motorcycle and he just wants, especially like it's all about cutting to their lifestyle. Like Greg came in today on a motorcycle, right? So he's wearing a helmet, he has wind blowing in his hair, right? So if I had a really clean haircut on him, that's not going to last when he puts on his helmet or when he jumps on his motorcycle. You know, he needs something that he could take his helmet off, run his hands through it. It's not going to be a picture perfect haircut in the sense of a picture perfect haircut, but this will be a very beautiful, clean, thought of haircut for his lifestyle. And that's another important question to ask. You know, all right, how much time are you spending on your haircut in the morning? Do you spend any time on your haircut in the morning? What kind of work do you do? Do you work outside? Do you work inside? Do you wear a suit? Do you wear flip-flops to work? Like, all these kind of give you an idea of who the human is. And once you get to know the human, that's when the haircut really comes to life, because you really are trying to create a haircut that best suits this human's, not just his face shape, but his life. And like, once you kind of knock all these out, you're giving him a haircut that makes him look younger, makes him look good, makes his face look skinnier, and all of a sudden he's able to go to work and work outside or ride a motorcycle and take off his helmet and his hair still looks good with just him running his hands through it. Like, guys, he's coming back to you. So there's so many different ways to create and keep a new client. So I just encourage you to listen to your client at that initial consultation. And let's flash forward to a year later when I've cut Greg's hair 12 times. So this is his 13th time coming in. I don't need to have that really consultation. And I really maybe don't need to shampoo him first. Maybe he comes in with clean hair. You know, maybe really his hair is kind of better to cut dry. Like, I get that. So with that being said, it's like that initial time meeting someone and that initial shampoo, really it is just to break the touch barrier and make your client feel comfortable with a new person cutting his hair. After that time, you could really change the game a little bit and change the way we handle him by if his hair is better to cut dry. Maybe it is, you know. So, or maybe he's coming in the first haircut in the morning, he just got out of the shower, so it's not really smart to shampoo him again, you know. So I just encourage you, when you have a first-time client, always shampoo, just to break that touch barrier is what we call it in our shop. So again, if you notice, I'm working on the right side of the head. I'm working this haircut into this length that I have up here, just looking for any corners. Again, I'm using my 13-tooth Hattori Hanzos, which is really making for light work, keeping it super textury for Greg. And I know these scissors are very sharp, and I know I could work very quickly, and they're probably pretty comfortable for him to get their haircut by. If you notice, I'm constantly blowing them off. Close your eyes, Greg. Thank you, my friend. With any scissor work, it's very important to keep the hair saturated pretty evenly. That's why I like to shampoo my scissor work clients first, just to make sure that the hair is saturated completely. A lot of the times, if you spend a lot of time over here and you're just using your spray bottle and all of a sudden this hair is drying up, well, when hair is wet, it stretches, right? So what happens if I'm cutting really wet hair here and it's nice and quite a bit longer because it's stretching? Then all of a sudden I come over here and I cut drier hair that's not as long. We're going to kind of have an uneven look, which is not what we want in the shop. So again, I'm here grabbing some of this hair, looking for any long hairs, any points in the cut, and I think we're really starting to look good on this side for me to kind of jump into a clipper cut and start ushering up this haircut. Again, I'm trying to keep the corners nice and full. I'm going to pin those back up. Again, it's a little long, kind of see how it's just that right there. To me, like, that's something that would get away from him very quickly. So let's go ahead and kind of take this out. Point cut. Keeping it nice and full through the corners. Nice. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna run them back real quick. Again, I'm gonna kind of start tapping into some of that work I did on top, making sure these sides, watching which way his hair grows. Same thing over here, just kind of taking this hair up into that length I took off the top, looking for any points. Again, I'm just always, even now, as I'm cutting his hair, I'm saying, don't make him look like he's in the military. Keep it nice and long. Keep some texture going for him. You know, I have to constantly remind myself too to really kind of create these looks, you know, because I'm pretty ADD. If I go too quick, I might take it too short, might take it too clean, and that's something we don't want. So that's really starting to look good. I'm gonna start getting into the back a little bit more. I'm gonna have you tilt your head down. Let's go ahead and blow them off. It's always nice to kind of check in with your client. Greg, you still doing okay?
Yep.
Awesome, sir. Thank you. Have him look down a little bit. Again, I'm going to start, using my 13-tooth texturizers. Seems a little thick in this ducktail area. So let's break that up for him. If you notice, I'm just always constantly being natural with his hair. Really just kind of naturally letting my hands kind of kick it around and kind of watching which way it falls and really kind of tapping in to the natural flow of his hair. Again, I'm not trying to fight his hair, guys. We do not want to fight the hair. We want to work with the hair. And the more we work with the hair, the better the haircut's going to grow out. But if you fight it and we're really trying to, don't get me wrong, we can manipulate the hair to an extent. But if we really are trying to manipulate the shape of it a lot or the way it wants to grow, it might look good for a week or so. I get that. But we're really trying to make this haircut look good for 5 weeks to a month, you know? So that's my main goal. I think if I give my client a haircut that he could wear for a month, I think we did our job. So again, let's go ahead, take this down. Even though I'm gonna do a little kind of nice long clipper work on the side, let's just get this shape kind of going for us. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So what I want to do now, I just want to give him a quick little lineup. Nothing crazy. I know I'm about to do some clipper work, but I just want to start. The quicker I could see the shape, the better. So let's just go ahead, clean up some of the neckline. Again, I want to keep this kind of long. I don't want him to look like he's in the military. He likes his sideburns where it's at, so when, I don't want to go any higher than where they're at right now. So I'm just gonna, and I want to keep this full in the corner. So really what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna keep the length here. I'm just gonna do a little cleanup around his C shape real quick, or the C cup, nothing crazy. Just a little bit of detail. Just because he has, a really textury, kind of a messier haircut, some of these really small, little detailed areas around the C cup right here really is going to make this haircut pop off for my client. More importantly, we're already on this side. I have my trimmer. I can kind of clean up right underneath the cheekbone. Again, anytime I'm around the eye or the eyebrow or anything like that, I like to have a nice firm control on my client. So let's go ahead, clean up the unibrow a little bit, which he doesn't really have, which is okay. And then really, when I'm working on men's eyebrows, I'm not trying to change the shape ever. I try to keep them as natural as possible. All I'm trying to do is just find the 1 or 2 hairs that might be out of place or longer than the rest. No, more importantly, if he has any white ones or silver ones that are not with the blonde hair, those are the ones I'm after. So let's go ahead and kind of come down. I'm gonna come up. Looking for any long ones, bam, beautiful. So again, like he said, he likes his sideburns long. I'm gonna keep them long, just make them flat. I'm gonna comb them back a little bit. I'm gonna clean up right behind them just a little bit. Perfect. Now I'm gonna bend his ear down and I'm gonna come up to the top. I'm gonna stop. I'm not trying to white wall him. I really want the hair almost sitting right on the ear. Like, he likes it messy, so if I don't want it too clean, I still want him to kind of feel some energy around the ear. Why not do a little ear detail while we're here? Again, the more detail you could put into your service, the better. Like I said, he feels every second of the detail that I'm doing to him. And really, more importantly, he's thinking in his head, man, the guy I got my hair cut up the road didn't do this to me. I better go back to Reeve. So that's one thing I think is very important as a stylist, is to always try to do more than the guy up the road. So whatever you do to one side, let's do to the other. Let's blow them off real quick. So whatever you do to one side, I really encourage you to always do to the other to keep it as symmetrical as possible. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more water over here to make sure that's about the same consistency as I was on the other side. Why not just hit the whole head? Again, if you have the tool in your hand, use it. You don't want to take so much time going back and forth from your station. It's very important to try to eliminate any kind of, anything that's gonna like add more time to the service. You know, if I want to be able to just continually work and cut and focus on the hair, so if I'm having to constantly go back and get water or get my trimmer to do something else, it's just taking time away from the haircut, which you don't want to do. So if you remember what I did on the other side, I just created a nice little C-cup, keeping it nice and full for my client in his corners. Nice and simple. Again, remember, we're keeping the sideburn nice and long. He likes the length of his sideburns. And I'm telling you guys, it's the simplest things like that. If I would take that, I could give him the best haircut in the world, but the one or two things he deliberately said at the beginning of his cut, hey, keep it textury. Hey, I like my sideburns long. Hey, I don't want to look like I just got out of the military. I could give him the best haircut 95% of this cut, but all of a sudden I take his sideburns shorter than what he wanted. I make him look like he's in the military, or I make it a really clean looking haircut. I don't care what kind of haircut I did. I don't think the gentleman's gonna like it, because he really only gave me 3 rules from the beginning of this service. So it's like, if I miss those 3 rules, he's gonna kind of realize like, man, this guy wasn't listening to me at that consultation. Like, I don't really trust him. So it's very important just to constantly listen to your client and try your hardest to give the client what he wants at first. I kind of look at it as a first time date with a girl or a guy, however you want to look at it. And my point is, as the male, I kind of let the girl choose a little bit more. I kind of, you know, I go off her energy. She might want to go to this restaurant that I might know that is not that good, but she wants to go. That's her comfort zone. We're going to go to that restaurant because she's comfortable. We'll date 3 or 4. I'm going to start talking to my client a little bit more in depth. You know what, Greg, I think we might want to do this. Or, you know what, I think we should try this on you. You should trust me a little bit and go from here. But that first time cutting your client, the very first time, I really want him to be in the driver's seat, just so that I keep him comfortable. And if I keep him comfortable, we're going to build trust and respect for each other. And that's when I, as an expert, can maybe add a little bit more ideas and thought to his process of getting a haircut. So that's just my little rant right there. Again, when I'm doing sideburns, I like to look straight at my client. Make sure that looks even. Perfect. So what I want to do now is I really like all the texture we're doing. I even kind of like the sideburns. I really don't think I'm gonna do too much clipper work through the rest. Maybe just on this bottom part and really keep a lot of this energy through here. Again, I'm listening to myself. I need to remember what my client says. So I'm gonna use today my JRLs. I'm gonna jump on the biggest guard I have at first. Well, this is a 7 guard, and I'm not gonna go any lower than I assume a 4 guard, okay? So his hair gets, even though it's long, it gets a little thin in the very back, so I don't want to take too much off, but I do want just a little cleaner look in the back. So I'm gonna just let me tuck this down a little bit more for him. And I'm watching which way his hair grows, guys. So if you notice, I'm combing down, and his hair's nice. It goes straight up here, has a little bit of kick here, has a little kick on this side, okay? So let's go ahead. Listening to my clipper. Let's go over here now. Trying to keep this as symmetrical and even as possible. And I could honestly say your client feels how you're being symmetrical with him. If I go over here and do some work over here, but I don't go over here and do it, he literally feels that. His skull, his body could feel that his hair is a little thicker on one side because I missed a step or I didn't come over here and do the same amount. When I was first started cutting hair, I would even count how many swipes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I would come over here, literally in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just so his head feels that I was even, I was completely even on one side, did the exact same number on one side. And like, I just think that really just helps out with a really nice even haircut. And more importantly, your client really feels like he's getting a nice haircut because I'm not missing a beat on either side of his head. So that's my 7 guard. I'm gonna get on a 6 guard now. Always making sure you hear that nice little click. If you don't hear that click on your guard, I encourage you to make sure it's on there nice or this thing's gonna pop off and you guys are gonna have a really bad time. So make sure that guard's on there nice. Again, we're not trying to make this look too clean, but I just want a nice, I'm really just creating a better shape, something that he could go another 5 weeks with and have a nice haircut, grows out nice and even for him, okay? Whatever you do to one side, let's do to the other. Let's come down. Starting to look really good. That's a 6 guard, 5 guard now, completely on there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna go nearly as high into around his ear. So I'm gonna stay a little lower. Allow that clipper to do work. Not come nearly as high. Remember my little rocking boat, my little pirate ship. Kind of start low and I get a little momentum, just kind of back and forth. But this time around, I'm losing momentum. So with each clipper guard, I'm actually not going nearly as high. So I might kind of come into a slow stop at the very bottom of this cut. Again, keeping it nice. There we go. Now I'm jumping on a 4 guard. Hear that click? And guess what? I'm not going to come up nearly as high. Just hit that bottom. Hit that bottom right there. Okay? Let's do a 3 guard, and I could already tell this is probably where I'm going to stop on him. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the bottom of this cut right here. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and blow them off real quick. I'm about to kind of do a little bit of cleanup on his neckline, so I'm going to use Aveda Air Control today. It's a very light hairspray. I'm going to use my Hattori Hanzo trimmer. I'm going to have him look down a little bit. And again, now this time my pirate or my rocking ship or my pirate ship is going to start low and it's going to build momentum up. Build momentum up and around. Building momentum up and around. If you want to take it down to get some of this neck hair, that's great. All the way up to around the bottom of the ear. Back to the bottom of the ear. But again, I really want to keep some of this texture just right around that ear. I'm not trying to go too clean right now, guys. So let's just keep a little energy around that ear. Okay, now I'm going to tilt, come up, making this nice and tighter. Tilt, come up. He has a little bit of hair right behind. You know, this part is always hard for the gentleman to see when they're shaving or doing anything. So I really think it's important for us as barbers to get those hard to see areas for our client. You know, that's just something that when he's in the mirror, he's really gonna have a difficult time making a clean line, maybe getting all the hair. But from my angle, very easy to do, and it really kind of brings the whole look together. So I'm gonna step back and kind of look at him real quick. Look down a little bit for me, sir. Awesome. He's just a little longer right through here. Let's take this down. That looks really, really good so far. So from there, I'm going back to my hairspray. I'm jumping on my feather razor, which is very easy. I love this tool. It comes with a little box. You just put your old blade in, slides out, no blade now. You take your new blade that's in this little container, slide it right in. We're ready to roll. I use a new blade for every one of my clients just for sanitary reasons, which I think you should too. Again, if you notice, he has a little bit of a beauty mark right here, a little mole. Even though this has a guard on it, if I come at this at a very aggressive angle, I could cut that. So this is one thing I always do. If I see any kind of beauty mark on the neck, what I will do is I'll put my finger over it and I'll do the rest of the work first. So I could just kind of work around this. I keep my finger on there just as a safety net for both him and myself. Something I don't want to cut. Again, I'm cleaning up around the ear. Again, I'm a very loose hold. I'm not gripping this thing like a bear. It's a feather razor for a reason. To hold it like a feather, okay? It's very, very lightweight in your hand, almost making the tool's weight do all the trick. Okay, if you want to cross-check, I could come up, turn my blade around, come up, and now what I'm going to do is I let go, and I will probably use a nice trimmer to work around this now. Again, not using a blade. I mean, you could if you want to, but why not just kind of use a little trimmer around it to kind of clean it up. And that's my little trick on how to avoid any kind of bleeding or any kind of cutting your client. So I'm going to kind of move him around a little bit. From there, I did my clipper work, so why not try to marry it a little bit more? If you notice, kind of long right through here. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to tap this with my texturizers. Again, I'm just using my texturizers very heavy with him because that's the type of haircut he wanted. And I'm just kind of marrying that where I did that clipper work, lower in the cut. Now I'm just melting it into this longer textury look for my client. Again, I don't mind hair kind of hitting that ear a little bit today. And the thing is like if he wants it cleaner around the ear, guess what? He could tell me that. So that's the thing, you know, with these kind of haircuts, it's best to maybe, you know, halfway, when you get done with this area, just have another little consultation. Greg, how's that looking? Is that feeling okay? What do you think about we going a little shorter around the ear? So that gives you a little wiggle room of you knowing how short you could take it without making him feel uncomfortable. So same situation over here. I think that's starting to look really cool. So let's do the same thing. Whatever you do to one side, let's do to the other. Just hitting straight up, a lot of texture. A lot of texture. Let's go back around. Okay, I might just hit this cowl or this little area right through here just a little bit more. Being patient, letting my scissor do the work. Coming back over here. His hair is just a smidge longer right on top of this ear, so I want to make sure it's even real quick. Money. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and blow our client off. And then I'm going to start ushering in these bangs, and then I'm going to melt it all together. So if you're watching the video this far, you're probably thinking, is that a sheet he's wearing and not a cape? It is, because I forgot mine at my shop and we're improvising, and if you've watched it this long, I don't think you really care we're using a sheet. Sometimes you just have to work with what you got, and that's something we'll talk about at another date. So we're gonna add in his bangs now. Let's blow them off a little bit. I'm gonna, again, if I had a mirror, I'd be able to look at him in the mirror, so I'm gonna kind of take a step back real quick. He wears his hair kind of, it's not combed over to the left, he just kind of runs his hands to the left. So there's a big difference between like trying to create this like suave, combed over look, or a look that just kind of sits nice and up on top of his head, okay? So with that being said, I'm going to slowly add the bang into his hair. So I'm just kind of coming down a little lower than my original part that I had his bangs in. And what am I going to do? I'm going to mark those off. And this time around, I'm actually going to use my feather razor that I just used on the back of his neck. I don't have to change the blade because it's the same client. I'm going to grab a 7-inch comb. And I'm gonna start really attacking this and creating a lot of texture with my feather razor. Again, this is one of the most important parts of the haircut. It's the first thing he sees when he opens his eyes and looks in the mirror in the mornings. It's the first thing he's gonna notice when he opens his eyes and checks it out in the mirror. And all I'm doing is just point cutting, and even when I'm point cutting and using my razor, if you notice, I'm dragging and moving that hair towards his left. I'm not really taking too much length off of it. Even though I took about 3/4 of an inch off the rest of the cut, I think the bangs grow a little slower just because they're the ones who are getting hit with a lot of the elements, the sun, the wind. When he runs his hands through it, when he puts a ball cap on, the bangs really kind of take the brunt of the negativity out there. So a lot of the times the bangs don't grow as quickly because they actually got kind of beat up throughout the months that he did not get a haircut more than the rest of his head. So with that being said, I'm probably only taking off maybe a 1/2 inch from these bangs and not the 3/4 to an inch that I did through the rest of the cut. So I'm not trying to be ADD, but if you notice some areas that might need a little bit more texture, or more importantly, shape. You know, he already has a lot of texture in his hair. We've already built that, yes. So all I'm doing is I'm just adding a little bit more shape in this crown. Thought it might be a little poofy, and I don't want it really poofy. I just want it textury. That's looking way better. Okay, so let's go ahead, and here in a second, I'm gonna add a little bit more bang. So I'm gonna take these clips down. And I go about a 1/2 of each time. So this time around, I'm coming halfway down again. Again, I'm keeping these corners nice and heavy. Let's mark them off. I'm gonna add a little bit more water to my client. If you notice, every time I go to get a new tool or clipper, I always have my positive touch, like my last episode. Always having it would be able for energy to flow through him, through me. And more importantly, it just kind of keeps you aware of where you're at with the haircut. Again, there's usually a lot of stuff going on in the shop. A lot of people have different conversations, a lot of things moving and shaking where that might kind of steal your attention. Maybe people are asking you questions. I'm the owner of the shop, so people are always kind of coming up to me, asking me for help or for questions. And it's just a nice way to remember where I'm at during the haircut. So again, I'm only taking about maybe a 1/2 inch at first off this bangs. And I think for the camera, you kind of see what I'm looking at. I'm just kind of seeing those little dead ends, and those are what I'm after. I'm not really after all this good, clean hair that he has. I'm really just kind of after those negative hairs that might be a little messy and not going with the flow or energy of our client today. So again, a little touch-up work in this back corner. Again, keeping it textury. Kind of seeing how this is looking. If you want to kind of come at the front and kind of see how it's looking from the front, I encourage you to do so, especially since I don't have a mirror to kind of look into. Okay, now let's finish it. Let's take the rest of the bangs up. Again, I want to keep a lot of this texture. So let's kind of come down instead of coming up, because if I come up, I might take those bangs too short, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to kind of touch this. A little shatter cut. Shatter cut. Just seeing where it's heavy. Shatter cut, keeping it nice and full through that corner. That's looking really smooth. Being patient. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. Okay, whatever you do to one side, let's do to the other real quick. Look how good that's looking. So over here, this side looks a little better than that other side already, so I'm gonna have to do less work. Just hit this little thick patch right here. Maybe bring it back a little bit. Okay. Let's look straight at my gentleman for a second. Let's blow him off. Close your eyes. Just hitting the very ends of this. This all looks really good, guys, so I don't want to, I'm glad I didn't take any length really off this very front section. And then from there, I know I could come up now. And again, I'm just going after any frizzy ends. I'm not really taking length off anymore. Just looking for frizzy ends right now. And I could take those off with my thumb. And all I'm doing is called back pressure. This blade has a guard on it, so I can't really cut my thumb. So what I'm doing is that hair, I don't know how the best way to show this. The hair's going in. I'm putting my thumb on the back of that hair, and I'm ripping up. So that hair just comes in the back between my thumb and the blade, putting a little pressure on that hair and using the sharpness of my blade to really eliminate that hair. So that's kind of the trick that I'm doing with this feather razor right now, and it really does a great job. Again, I like to just pretend I'm my client, running my hands through his hair. If you notice, it's just some wild pieces right through this little corner. So those are what I'm after now. And with the art of reduction, at the end of the cut, I'm not cutting 50,000 hairs. I'm looking for those 1 or 2, 10 hairs that are making the haircut not look so good. So in the end, as you get closer and closer to being done while using the art of reduction, it's about finding those rogue hairs that in a month or 5 weeks are not going to look good for your client. So that's what I'm kind of looking for now, while maintaining all the little aspects of the cut that we talked about. Beautiful, guys. So what I want to do now is I'm going to start blow drying them. I use my blow dryer as a brush, so I'm pushing and brushing this hair into the shape I want. I usually close my eyes and kind of vibe out for a second. My service is wrapping up at the shop. I'm wrapping up with my client. I'm kind of closing the deal here. So I'm just kind of concentrating on my breathing. I think when you're in the middle of the haircut, there's just naturally, not anxiety, but your whole brain and your whole body is kind of on high alert with your client. I mean, you're just really trying to give a good, you're thinking deep, you're working fast, there's things going around. So this is like my one, I cut 18 heads of hair a day. Just this little moment of blow dry, I find peaceful. So as long as I know which way to push his hair with the wind, I could blow dry this haircut with my eyes closed. And my theory is this: if I could blow dry and style his hair with my eyes closed, he could do it with his eyes open. So that's why I just kind of vibe out here for a second. Most of my clients, they're not even facing the mirror for this time. I'm just kind of having them face away from the mirror so I could kind of just get my breath, kind of get my heart rate down a little bit. And that with any haircut, I always use the cold setting. Once I'm about 85% of the moisture out of my client, I'll start hitting him with the cool setting. And that really kind of locks this haircut into shape. So from there, what I like to do is I'm just gonna run my foil shaver over this whole head. And no, Greg, this is not shaving you. It might feel unique, but it's not doing anything crazy, okay, sir? So I'm literally gonna watch which way his hair grows, which I've been looking at this whole time. And I'm gonna run this just right over the rest of this hair, and it's just gonna get any little bitty flyaways, any frizziness, not the texture. It's not gonna change his texture that we created, but any frizziness of his haircut, it will be eliminated. So I'm just taking it on top. Down. Clean up that neck. Ear. Okay, just me doing that, I noticed just one little thing. It's good to kind of notice the rest of the cut. I just need to take just not the length. He likes the length. I just need to take a little of this bulk out at the very bottom of this sideburn. Just a little bit, guys, just to even it up on that other side. Beautiful, guys, beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna blow them off one more time from that last move. He likes his hair textury, piecey. I bet he kind of runs his hands through it. You don't want any kind of product that's too tacky or stubborn or in his hair. I mean, he wants it kind of pliable to be able to work. So today I decided to bring Sponge Wax by Hans de Foucault. Phenomenal line based out of California, American made. And then I always try to teach my client how to use the product. If they are going home and they can't style their hair like you did, it might look goofy when they're out in public, and that's making me look bad. So it's nice to kind of educate your client a little bit on how to style his hair, just so that he could remake this look at home. So today, Greg, I'm using Hans de Foucault. I'm right-handed, so I always kind of dip it out with my right index finger. If you're left-handed, left index finger. I use about maybe a nickel or less than a quarters of product, okay? From here, Greg, what I like to do is I like to put it in my left palm, okay? I get all the product off my index finger now, Greg. And what I do now, very important, I'm gonna keep it in my palms. I'm gonna get my fingers kind of spread out like this, Greg. I'm gonna go in a circular motion. It's called emulsifying. We're kind of breaking down this product, warming it up, make it a little bit more creamier. So now the product looks like this in my hands, okay? From there, Greg, we're gonna close our fingers and do a little praying mantis or fire starting motion like this, guys. From there, now the product is throughout my hands evenly, almost looks like it disappears. And more importantly, guys, you're not getting a bunch of clumps inside your fingers, which I love. And Greg, one thing you don't do, you instantly don't start putting the product up front, okay? You wanna put the product where the majority of your hair is, which is the back of your head, okay? And so when you start, Greg, we're gonna kind of start in the back and work our way forward. And more importantly, we're making an exterior shell. We're not working the product into the hair, we're working the product onto the hair, Greg. And at first, like I said, we wanna get this product on where the majority of the hair is, because those first initial swipes, the hair will grab most of the product, because if you look at my hands now, almost completely gone. And at the very end, would I add a little bit of product, whatever's left on my hands, into that front, Greg, okay? Always like to add, oh, I missed one eyebrow. I did the one on his one side. I didn't do this side. Again, it's nice to be thoughtful, to remember where you're at, okay guys? So let's go ahead, clean this up. Again, I'm not changing the shape of it. I'm just finding any of those rogue hairs that are a little longer than the rest. Now that that product's in his hair, I could kind of do a little bit of detail work. That C shape is just a smidge cleaner than this one, so let's go ahead and even this up a little bit. And guys, that is the art of reduction. I'm gonna take off our makeshift cape real quick. And let me kind of twirl him around, kind of show you this haircut once and for all. And guys, to me, let's blow him off real quick. Once you blow that, like, another thing, guys, again, I really encourage you, any hair that's above the collar line, worth getting. So I took that cape off. I noticed that there's a little bit of hair on the neck. Let's go ahead and get that cleaned off. Now, brother, we look done. So thank you so much for watching The Art of Reduction. I encourage you to subscribe and like. And if there's anything or haircuts you would like to see, just leave in the comments. Greg, I appreciate you being a first-time client with me on this episode. And if there's anything you don't like in the next couple haircuts or in the next couple days, you call me, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks.
Awesome, pleasure. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for watching.